Well, we're going to talk about insert topic again, which is very exciting. It's my favorite discussion. So, how are you,
Very
Timothy?
broad. I am doing
Very
well.
broad.
Happy to be here.
Good. All right. So, no guests per se. I will be expounding my. I'll be expounding lots of hot air to you, and feel free to respond in kind. But I have two things that are.
Does that mean I have to be kind or just in kind? I mean,
no, you can be as unkind as you want. So we've got sort of two things that I want to blab about. Okay. And the first I've touched on before, which is the state of the market as expressed through the length of time it takes to sell a property, specifically the days on market. Now, values are up. There's just no denying that they're up. The first half of 2022, the median price for a single-family home in Westchester County was up $45,000 from $765 to $810 median price. In the third quarter, the median price went up a little bit from $855 to $870. Now, when you think the median price in a county being $870,000,
right, is
just nuts.
Yes.
But even though rates are now knocking on 8.5%, we're not seeing values suffer. And the reason for that is because inventory is still very, very low. But that doesn't mean that it's the same hot, crazy market that it was 6 months ago.
Right.
So, little data for you. So, in the first quarter of 2021, the average days on market for a single-family home in Westchester County was 42 days on market. 42. The answer to the universe's questions.
Right.
42. Now, in the first quarter of this past year, that was down to 31. We compare year over year, not the first quarter to the second quarter, and I'll explain why in just a minute. Because the days on market for the second quarter this year were 15, down from 24. Now, you might say, wait a minute. The second quarter was so much hotter than the first quarter, but you have to understand how transactions work. The first quarter is typically a result of the contracts and the activity from the fourth quarter. And what do we know happens in the fourth quarter? It's all holidays and distractions and Thanksgiving and traveling. So it is expected that the first quarter will be the lightest in terms of closings because it's the look back of the final quarter around the holidays. So the third quarter this year, again, 18 days on market, median number of days on market for a single family home. 18 days on market, which when you think about it countywide is absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
Because what do we have? We have a process here where it comes off market after contracts are fully executed. Contracts take typically 10 days to 2 weeks.
Right.
Typically, right? You got to set up inspections. You got to send out memos to the attorneys. The attorneys get their info together. And as we well know, the attorneys don't send out the contract 5 minutes after they get the memo.
Right.
And even if they did, even if they were locked, loaded, and ready to go, the attorney on the other side, typically who represents the buyer, is going to mark it up just a bit. So even if it took only a week, logistically, getting people in from work, blah, 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 that is crazy fast time on the market. Crazy fast. So let's compare now to right now. Houses that are under contract right now, but they haven't closed yet. Their average time on market is 32 days. So if we went from 18 to 32.
Still fast.
Still pretty fast. So there's two takeaways from that. A, it's cooling off, but B, it's still pretty hot.
Yeah.
Why is it hot? Because there's still very little inventory.
Right.
Now, here's the crazy one, and this portends to why sellers are no longer in the same superior position that they were a year ago at this time. For active listings that don't have a fully executed contract, fully available, or maybe they have an accepted offer, but active listings. I want to take a wild guess on median days on market.
Right now, 36.
60.
60. Ooh, that's a huge jump.
60 days on market. Now, we did a broadcast, I want to say a couple months ago, where we were seeing the very same numbers. So they are going up. Now, does this mean it is that the sky's falling? Well, if you read the paper, yes, of course, the sky's falling. Someone this morning said to me that if you slow down from 150 to 60, you're still going pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? I first heard Joe Rand say that.
Right.
And now other people are saying it. David Volkman, my friend. So they're trying, if it bleeds, it leads. They're trying to create housing crisis or a big drama around a market cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And since the market cycles in real estate are much slower to come in and go out than, say, the stock market, which is always what happened yesterday, right? There's a lot of fodder for the media to capitalize on. We still have a very, very low inventory market. Right now, there's only 1,170 active listings, single-family homes in Westchester County. That is about half what it typically is, and we've had markets where there's been 4,000 and 5,000 properties for sale. 4,000 and 5,000.
Right.
There's
nothing there. Right.
Very low inventory. So what they're doing with interest rates, and now interest rates are now pretty much at 8%, is cooling things off. Now, part two. So we're slowing down. Sky's not falling, but we're slowing down. I am now reading like blood in the street stuff.
Yeah.
Brokerages are in compromised positions. I won't name names, but these are brokerages that were just the golden children 2 years ago in some of the stuff out there, some of the media
major markets.
There, right? And I'm also seeing kind of boots on the ground commentary from our colleagues in the industry, openly questioning if now's a good time to advise buyers to buy. Now, you know that old phrase, buyers are liars?
Yeah.
Sellers are yellers and buyers are liars. Buyers aren't liars. I disagree with that.
Right.
It's hard to fraudulently close on a house. I mean, it's just too much that goes on. But buyers are followers.
Right.
Here's what I mean by that. When the market was overheated, admittedly, rates were low, right? Low rates induced a lot of people to get into the market. But when the market was overheated and you were competing with 10 and 11 people to find your shelter for the next 5, 10, 20 years, people jumped in, and it was easy to write an offer. It wasn't easy to get it accepted, but it was easy to write an offer.
Right.
Now, the buyers have far less competition, and they are reticent to write offers in some instances because they don't have a lot of other people, like they're looking around and they don't have the same competition. So am I doing it wrong? What am I doing? What's wrong here? So I openly questioned this the other day on a video I made, a brief video. When's a good time to buy? When do buyers have an advantage? I mean, usually buyers have an advantage when sellers don't hold the leverage, right?
Right.
So remember, we were kids, gold was going to gajillion dollars an ounce and everybody was buying gold. Or there was a tulip frenzy about Bitcoin 3 or 4 years ago, and it was up to 60,000. And now what is it? 20, 25? You'd know what Bitcoin is.
1920.
It's $20,000.
Yep.
So if you bought Bitcoin when everybody else was buying Bitcoin and you invested $10,000, you now have $3,000, $3,500. Way to go, because everybody else was buying it. So the best time to buy is when the sellers can't hold you over a barrel,
right,
and force and induce you to drop contingencies that really should never be dropped.
Yeah.
People were dropping mortgage contingencies. People were dropping inspection contingencies. People were taking violations, and they weren't keeping the sellers honest because the seller had a conga line of people behind the buyer ready to throw cash at them if this buyer didn't perform. So now all of that pressure and all of that insanity is gone, and there are people that still openly wonder if now is a good time to buy. Well, I don't know how to explain how all this works any clearer. The rates are higher, yes, but you don't live inside a rate. You don't live. Very drafty. Very, very drafty inside your rate. I think you live inside the shelter. You live inside the structure.
Right.
And if you have an opportunity to buy without as much competition, and you actually might even be able to get a seller's concession or bargain the price down just a touch, that's pretty good. Now, if rates change, you can always refinance.
Right.
But
now,
go on. Yeah.
Can I bring up a point of well, first one I wanted to ask was, what do you think the percentages of? I mean, we know you can't live inside your, mortgage rate or whatever that is. Those factors of investment factors, because everyone needs a place to live. Your favorite saying, living indoors is not going out of style.
No.
The question I have is, it's really the percentage of need that a person has to upgrade, whether they're expanding their family or taking in their in-laws to live with them, or the kids are leaving and they're downsizing. I wish that would happen to me. But it's the percentage there that people need to think about why they're moving. It's not, when. I mean, the only time when you really have an influence of your real estate decision is your first buy, because your first buy is, okay, do I want to move out of my parents' basement and get in on something, or quit renting for whatever amount of time you've done that. And when it's over, it's over. That's not much choice when you have to, when you expire or moving into, assisted living places, but, to time your way out of that. So it's really your lifestyle is the choice you have to make, and that
That's
business
the reason.
decision.
That
Yeah.
that
So
right there is the crux of why real estate decisions should be made. And while there will be, maybe a little extra action due to external factors like interest rates and the climate of the market and everything like that, the real reason to buy real estate is because it supports your lifestyle.
right, exactly.
Years ago, I said that the world's most powerful economic indicator was not any index; it was the uterus.
Yeah,
Because 3 or 4 years into the housing crash, I could just sort of hear plenty of people saying to their mates, "Look, I don't care where the market's going. I want to start a family.
right,
I want to
right,
move out from your parents. I want to stop renting. I want to start building equity." And the few people who did actually buy in 2008, 2009, 2010, I think by and large, they're probably doing quite okay
right,
equity wise. I think they're doing quite okay. So just because your house might lose a little value over the next 90 days or 6 months or 2 years for that matter,
right.
if you're planning on putting down roots, raising a family, and
Mhm.
staying there for whatever reason, whatever your definition of that is, for the next 5, 10, 20 years, I really don't see the downside. And you don't just buy for bean counter reasons. You buy real estate because it supports your lifestyle and your next chapter in life.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I I'll tell you a quick one that I had. A customer early on, actually a good friend of mine, and bought a small little starter house, and then bought his second one. I guess it was 5, 6. Right before the mess happened. And so he traded up off his first house and made, a nice 30% return on his first house. And then 2 years after his second house, everything, in '08 and whatever came back. And he came back to me and had said, oh, did I make a mistake? Maybe I should have waited. Now, I got this big house and, all these bills. And I said, Bill, what would you, now I just doubted him. What would you have gotten for your first house if you were going to sell that now? You wouldn't have gotten 30%. All that 30% would have been gone. You wouldn't have had that equity to pay for the new place, and maybe it would have been cheaper. I was like, it's all the same. You can't sell high and buy low at the same time. That's just really hard to do. I don't know how many people
very hard to
can
do.
make that happen, but you can't sell high and buy low at the same time. So you're in the market. Once you get in the market, you're in there, and it all depends on your lifestyle. It has nothing to do with what the market it is. It's what you want to be doing with your life.
That should be
So,
what's driving people's decisions.
right,
That should be
exactly.
what's driving people's decisions. Now, I'll agree that 7 and 8% interest rates will have a deleterious effect on
Yeah.
your buying power. Um,
Well, that affects your lifestyle
it,
for
it,
sure.
it absolutely will. But what also has uh, a tough effect on your buying power is going to be having to overbid by 10% and
Right.
dropping contingencies, risking your good faith deposit if you don't get your mortgage expeditiously, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I would rather. Well, I did this. I mean, I'm practicing what
Right.
I preached. I bought my house in 2007, and because I was self-employed and for whatever reason,
Yeah.
instead of paying, I don't know, 5.5%, I paid 6 3/4, and I didn't refinance out of that for more than 10 years.
Right.
I really don't have any regrets. My children have enormously happy memories of this home. I love my house.
Hmm.
We just got a new patio there, and we're working on a new kitchen, and I'm happy here. I just,
Right.
and we've got equity. So the prevailing attitude that just because the next 60 to 90 to maybe 180 days might be a little sketchy, might be a little less bearish, more bearish, less
Yeah.
bullish.
Right. Less bull.
Not going to
Let's
be a
just say that.
strong market, right? Doesn't
Right.
matter. You're going to outlast that for
Right.
years and years and years and years. Buyers are in for the first time in a long time, a position where they can actually negotiate in fairly good faith without losing their sanity over another offer blowing theirs out of the water. And if you are a buyer and you're in a stage in life where buying would make sense, this is an opportunity, and I wouldn't worry about the interest rate as long as you can afford your payment.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you could have bought a 3,000 square foot colonial before it at the earlier rates, and now you can only afford a Cape Cod.
Right.
But I can talk to a lot of people who were outbid on those colonials 5 and 6 and 7 and
Yeah.
8 times. One of my agents had somebody showed him 72 houses, made 11 offers.
Yeah.
None of them got accepted. So had that 2% interest rate work out for you?
Right. Right. Well, you know, I put in 17 offers for my friend in Larchmont, and you know,
I didn't even know there were 17 houses in Larchmont.
well, this was over the last 2 years, so you know, we saw a lot of them, and a couple he almost won. So it wasn't like he was walking around lowballing everybody, but it was not easy,
Right.
and yeah, he did miss out on those rates, but you know, he's still not. But you know, he's got a house in Larchmont already, so you know, his lifestyle. He wanted to move, but you know, a little bit too comfortable at home to you know, push the envelope, as they say. But
Well, yeah, motivation factors in, doesn't it? Right.
yeah,
But
exactly.
the idea that it is not a good time to buy just because the market has cooled off is completely opposite of how purchase decisions should be prudently made.
Right.
The sellers no longer have this superiority advantage that they enjoyed a year ago at this time, which means that the buyers are in a better position. And because rates have risen, instead of lamenting that your purchasing power has been affected, how about celebrating the fact that instead of competing with 15 people for a place, you may be the only bidder, or
Right.
maybe there's only one or two other bidders.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm coming from with this. And we are still in a pretty robust market. 60 days, 32 days on market is crazy healthy. 60
Right.
days on market is still a seller's market.
Right.
It really is. When we were doing market reports 10, 12, 14 years ago, there were 180 days on market, 200 days on market as medians. You could have like a kick-ass place, well-appointed, aggressively priced, and you were still going to sit 2, 3, 4, 5 months sometimes.
Right.
And if a light flickered during the home inspection, guess what?
Yeah, they walked away.
They walked away, or they wanted a concession, or they wanted it
Right.
repaired, or something like that, or they wanted the price adjusted. So
Well,
we have
a light out in the kitchen means you need a full renovation in that.
yeah. Yes, exactly.
You're gonna
Now
have, yeah.
the lion charging over the hill, as they like to say,
Right.
Is pretty small. The economy has its foibles right
Challenges.
now. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt. I heard that the bond market is really terrible. It's the worst bond market in ages, in a generation. And I totally get that. You don't live in bonds, by the way. You don't live there.
Right.
But the amount, the 2 times in our lifetime, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it is a fact. The 2 times in our lifetime that there's been a tremendous economic collapse that caused a housing crash.
Right.
Both of them have been come in the wake of a massive financial failure because billions of dollars in bad paper was out there, and that condition does not exist. There's no big subprime bubble. There's no big savings and loan crisis that's about to happen. None of that is going to happen. Now, there is one concern that people have brought up. One concern, and there's actually very hard data to support this concern. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
Okay. 1929, the Philadelphia Athletics win the World Series. Right
Okay.
after that, the Great Depression. 1980, Philadelphia Phillies win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Right after that, there was the big recession at the beginning of Reagan's first term, and of course, there was a housing crash in the late 80s. 2008, the Phillies win the World Series,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, that is the year that the Great Recession kicked into high gear. Now, we had already had the savings and loan problem, but that was when we almost went back to a barter economy.
Right.
As you probably know, the Philadelphia Phillies have won the National League pennant and will face the Houston Astros, who swept the Yankees. Go Astros.
Right.
My heart says Phillies. You know, I went to college in Philly. Who doesn't like Mike Schmidt, right? Who doesn't like the Philly fanatic? My heart says Phillies, but my wallet says Stros.
That's those are all good stats, you know, and very, very. I think the Eagles are doing all right. Is the football the Eagles
I don't
are
have
doing
any.
all right?
I don't have any.
Stats, no correlation for them.
I have no data on the Eagles championships. In 1960, well, the Eagles have only won 2 NFL championships. 1960, when they beat the Green Bay Packers, but I think we did okay in the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they won the 2017 Super Bowl, 2017 or 2018 Super Bowl.
Sounds right.
I can't recall. I don't think there was any pandemic in 1961, so I just can't find any data. But this is the problem, and really sorry for my friends who were Eagles fans, but when your team sucks that badly for that many decades and you don't have enough championships to even draw an economic line, sorry, your team just sucks. And yeah, you're going to beat the Giants twice this year. Fine. Big deal. That's the booby prize. I still can't get my head around the fact that the Giants are 6-1.
6-1. Yes. It's got some people very happy in my house.
Same thing in the Faranda household. This is special. The last time they were 6-1 was the 80s.
Yeah, we don't know. These kids weren't alive, so they're very excited.
In 1990, they started out 10-0.
Right.
And they lost to the Niners in a Monday night game, 7-3. You can look this up. How I know this shit is really just it's really terrifying that I know this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. But let me just backtrack a little bit to your comment about the uterus and what I remember about Dr. Doom. If you remember him, he came out just before the 2008 collapse and came in, and I think he spoke at one of the real estate conferences. He was very scary, but pretty accurate.
We're not talking about the Marvel Comics Dr. Doom. We're talking about
this
the
was
Big
an
Short
economist.
Dr. Doom?
Yeah. Okay. And he came in and gave a big speech about 2008 was going to happen because the boomers were all hitting retirement and taking their money with them into, that lifestyle change again.
Yep.
And so the boomers, so zooming out and bringing this back to population stats, the boomers were retiring, 68 million of them or something like that. And their children, the Gen X, not Gen X, it skipped it to the
millennials.
Millennials were not in a position to buy their houses, right? All the houses that the boomers were needing and all this kind of stuff. And Gen Xers were 46 million. I don't know why I know these stats, or if they're probably pretty close, but whatever.
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
But there was only 46 million of the Gen Xers.
Yeah.
And but there's 78 million of the millennials. So I think that's why this market, even though we're coming off such low interest rates will remain, healthy and not go into crash mode, as some people are saying that, oh, it's crashing, it's going to crash. I don't see the crash happening because there's going to be so many millennials who are now, 35 years old, starting their families, looking to get on with their life, not wanting to be caught in a rental or some place small if there's another pandemic or something else that happens. They want their own space. So that, they'll fight through these interest rates. And of course, we're coming into a more natural market of buyers and sellers. So I look at the fact that these guys are all starting their life and wanting their own, picket fence and that all kind of situation, where the boomers have, cleared out of the '08 situation.
Like their parents did. They're going to be fine because their parents were paying 15% interest.
Yeah.
In the '80s.
I remember those stories from the '80s. I only got licensed in '92, but paying attention to my brothers and sisters who were moving out, moving on, all this kind of stuff, and I hearing the chatter of how much is this going to cost and all this kind of stuff. It was crazy, but I remember those, and then I started in '92, and soon after this guy was coming in going, oh, it's all going to be over, and it was a mess. It was a mess for quite some time, but that was, again, tied to the boomers pulling out of the market, and the financial world. I believe the financial world saw that, took heed to that, and made a whole bunch of crappy deals to spur the market along, to keep that alive, knowing that, things were going to change, and this was they had to make money and cash out beforehand. But that's more my own.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of we could talk a long time about the whole generational trends and that are connected to all this, and it's very complex. I break it down in more simple terms because you can just sort of see lots of crappy loans.
Right.
They get due. And the old adage, when you owe the bank $10,000 and you can't pay, you have a problem. But when you owe the bank $10 million and you can't pay, the bank has a problem.
Yeah.
So, we saw banks closing and failing. And, we've only seen that twice in our lifetime: the savings and loan catastrophe, the savings and loan crisis, and the subprime crisis. So, look, we're not going to do looks like the whole hour because I think we've kind of beat this. But the takeaways here are very, very simple. The market is cooling off, but it is nowhere near a spot where it is a severe buyer's or even a mild buyer's market overall. Right. And it is an easier time for buyers to actually make a deal happen and close than it has been since COVID hit. And that is saying a lot. We're going back 3 or 4 years now. So if someone is telling you not to buy, ask them why.
Right.
And when they come up with, well, the interest rates or blah, 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 what about the sellers who are willing to make a bargain? Because if you tether buying to interest rates, then the 80s never happened. Then the entire 100 years before this period of time never happened. I mean, we've had, over around 7, 8, 9, 10% interest rate in a normal market for decades and decades.
Right.
So yeah, we had to pull the Band-Aid off. Prices are going to stop spiking. But I've always heard that it is better to buy when the seller is compromised. And right now, the sellers are about as nervous as they've been in quite some time.
I would say that, but I think they're just coming back to reality. And I don't think they should be scared, but, it comes back to lifestyle things. You just can't get away from that.
There's maybe a few scared sellers because of the return of bank-owned foreclosures and foreclosure and distress sales. But I think overall, sellers are more willing to make a bargain or negotiate a little bit, because what we saw before wasn't negotiation. It was just leverage, just exerting leverage. And that's not really negotiation. Now sellers are coming to the table in good faith.
Exactly.
Finish your thought. I'm sorry, I rudely interrupted you.
No, I'm glad you finished. All I was going to say, I was going to give you an opportunity to plug a couple of upcoming shows so that people can, learn to tune in with us on Tuesday mornings and
All
check
right.
out
Well,
some good
I'm
stuff.
going to drop 3
Just
names
throw a
on
couple
you.
names.
I'm
Yeah.
going to drop 3 names on you. We are going to, in future episodes, future broadcasts, have Rich O'Donnell, who is the tax grievance whisperer of Westchester County.
That's
I ran
everybody's
into him
favorite
at
guy.
Members Day yesterday. Great guy, super crazy knowledgeable. So we're going to have Rich O'Donnell talking about tax grievances. Anthony Ruperto, who is like a phenomenon, works for a company you've heard of,
Yes.
who is a phenomenal real estate agent and recently elected to board of directors for the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors. Very proud of him. And our
Very
friend
nice.
Victoria Rivadeneira, who was my co-host on the radio show Real Estate Talk for years.
Blast from the past.
Yeah. And Victoria is now doing consulting and turnarounds for real estate brokerages. And it was a great chat I had with her yesterday about what she's doing. And I'm very excited to talk to the 3 of them, and we're working on more.
Yes.
So that way people don't have to listen to me filibuster.
Well, it's always good to do the market updates, and I think we should put those in regularly. And then, always great to have good guests. If anybody knows, put it in the comments, suggestions, anything else, or if you have questions you want to set up for these people coming on, they're going to be great shows and full of information. So good stuff. All right, Phil, we'll leave it there until next week, and we'll have some fun doing it. Thanks for putting us on Unscripted. I love listening to your insights.
Go Astros.
That's right. Take care. Next time.